there's just a few things I want to talk about to you about your demo. So you know how to do it, but let's just start by watching some of what students have done on the past and see what you can learn from them. So I know I have some demo reels in here. And do you guys want to see the best demos first or the so-so demos first? Which ones would you like to start with? I assume most people want to watch the best demos first. So I'm just going to put it in here. Well, if my screen lets me. Hang on 1 second. Come on. Can you guys hear me? The internet is acting up, so I don't. Can you guys hear me? If you can hear me, please talk to me. Say something. I don't know if I. Okay, Sarah says internet's still going. All right, so let's see. Let's start by the best ones first. So I'll say this is probably one of the best ones I've seen so far. So this is by Austin. He was in the. Oh, sorry. He was in the class on spring of 19, I think. He did have some more experience with After Effects. No, that's why you see these fancy titles being so fancy. I don't know why he modeled such a big environment for his bouncing ball. This is an assignment we didn't do, which is the solar system. Just consider that knowing about parenting was enough for this semester, since it's a shorter semester. Yeah, basically it's just a bunch of balls rotating around the sun. But here's his Lego scene, and just pay attention how he uses text and the camera movement to give some interest to just a plain render, you know. And at the end of the, I'll show you how he did some of these things. They're not very hard actually. So this is something way much more effort. Well, it depends on which direction you want to go, Clarissa. So Clarissa's saying this is way more effort than she was planning on putting into. Some people really likes it, you know. Some people really likes showing off their 3D modeling and stuff. If you're going in another direction, that's fine. But this is kind of like the best demo reel I've seen pass through the school so far. I've just been in it 3 years, so that gives you an idea. So let's see. So like I mentioned, he did have a really strong background on After Effects. He knew After Effects. I think he's even worked with After Effects before. So he played to his strength. You know, there's a lot of compositing there, 2D compositing. Let me show you. There's another one I wanted to show you. Andrew Heaton. I think he would be like second best, or pretty close there. And he had a big background on animation. He had done animation, so he just grabbed these characters from online and he also had a really strong background on After Effects. So you'll see things I haven't shown you in class just because he looked farther into things, you know. Bouncing ball, a little slow. And then the solar system, which we didn't do. Again, just because of length of class. And it's basically just some rotating balls around the sun. He put some rings on it to make it look spiffier and text, I guess, but there's really not much to that. So I think he was done with his model earlier and decided to model something else afterwards. I don't know if he had any other kind of life, you know. He spent all his time doing this. So he decided to model something extra. You know, and sometimes we don't have a social life. I guess this is kind of good pastime. But very good. Okay. So I would say those are the very best demos I've seen pass by. This I can talk to you about it later. How this is done. How did he get this animation done so fast? If you're interested on it. If not, it's not part of the assignment. It would be extra. It's not required. So this is just extra stuff he did. And if you're interested, just ask me at the end of the class and I'll tell you what happened there. How did he get these characters and the kicking of the ball at the end and all that. So there's a few things that I wanted to think about your demo. And I've written down here so I don't forget. My memory is pretty terrible, so I just took a few notes here. You always want to start your demo reel with your best, with your very, very best work. Why? Some people starts with sequential art, like, oh, this is my drawing when I was 10 years old, and it's terrible, and immediately people get turned off, especially if you're showing it to a possible employer. You know, they don't want to see a story of your progress. They want to see your best work right away. So if your first image is really good, they'll be like, oh, this is interesting, this is really good, maybe I'll keep watching, or I want to see the rest of it. So you always start with your best, and then progressively you get I wouldn't say worse, but a little bit less, you know, your work that's not as good as the very first one, and then you end with something good also. You can kind of surprise people with what you put in the middle. I know from this class you only have the bouncing ball and the Lego figure, and that's fine. And people's ask me, can I put work from my other classes on it? I'll say please go ahead and do. Why? Because I tell every class the 3 things you should get from your art school. Number 1 should be your portfolio, because any job you're gonna try to find is gonna be based on your portfolio. Second one is networking, so meeting people. I know it's pretty tough now that you're online and quarantine, but if you get a chance to go back to school, hopefully that will be the case, to make as many friends as you can, because they are the people that will hook you up with jobs. You know, that's what happened to me. All the jobs I had is because I knew somebody from Slack, not even from, well, I guess some people from previous jobs, but there's always people that you know, and if you know that, if they know you're nice, you know, they'll say something to their boss when you apply, like, oh yeah, I know that guy, he's pretty nice, or that girl, you know. If you were a jerk, you know, they probably say that too. So first is portfolio, second is networking, and third is your diploma. And I've mentioned this before, you know, there's a lot of saying, oh, you don't need a school, school's a ripoff. You know, you see a lot of those videos online. But school forces you to finish something, and employers actually do appreciate that. They know how hard it is. You know, most HR managers, most people that hire somebody young know how hard it is to get through school, with your job, with your life that you have, everything that's going on. So that means that you are a person that's committed. They want to see that. So when you apply for a job, and if you have a diploma, and there's another guy that has about the same skill level than you do, if he doesn't have a diploma and you have a diploma, you'll most likely they'll hire you. Also, if you get a job anywhere else, just because you have a diploma, they'll pay you $1 more. Just like if you know, it's just like, oh, this person's been through school, you know, just because that commitment that you put into things. But it just helps you throughout life, just having a degree. Even though you feel a lot of people rip on that, it still shows your commitment to things. So that should be, but diploma should be your last priority. As an artist, your first priority should be a demo with your strengths and your interests. So what do I mean by that is, like, what are you good at and what do you like doing? So you don't want to put a bunch of stuff there that's non-related or to, you know, whatever job you might be applying. I would put only stuff that I'm that I can do and that I enjoy doing, and things that are related to the job that I want, you know. So when I was really good at modeling, but I never put any animation on my demo reels, and I got hired as a modeler because I didn't put any animation. Obviously, the person that hired me thought, well, this person can actually model, so we're not going to have him do modeling. Animation. We're going to have him do modeling. So you don't want to make that mistake, you know. You want to, okay, what is it that I want to end up doing in my life, and what would I enjoy if I don't end up doing that, you know. I wanted to do also on a company. I wanted to do concept art, but there was like 300 employees, and the people that did concept art was like 6 people. So it was pretty tough. So to get into it, and I actually ended up doing modeling. I did some concept art. I was not as good as the other guys that were already there, but you know, I actually ended up liking modeling. That's why I, you know, because I was doing it all the time, and I realized, well, this is fairly easy. I don't have to deal with curves anymore, with keyframes or anything like that. So I ended up liking modeling, and that's why I teach it now. So just stick to your strengths and interests. You know, what jobs you would like to get on an art job. Don't put too much work. You don't have to put all of your work on a demo reel. You know, just things that you would like to, like I mentioned. Just going back to this, stick to your strengths, and just keep it short. Just your best work. So we're going to look at a few more demos. They're not as good as the other ones, but we're going to see where do this go wrong, and or what can we learn from them. We shouldn't say go wrong, I guess, because most people that's done a demo in this class is the first time they do something. So yes, you can include things that you have done outside this class. Yeah, I encourage you to do, like, I encourage you to, anything you put something that you're really proud of and you enjoy doing, just add it to your demo reel. It doesn't take anything to just dump it in After Effects and re-render your demo, you know, so it's updated. So Let's see, I think I have one in here and I want you to see. I want you to, I'll see if you notice what I'm talking about. Okay, Ethan. So this guy was really talented in After Effects and modeling and all this other stuff. Let me see. Why is it not playing? What the heck? Oh, it's open here. All right, so okay, let me make it bigger. There we go. So there's no sound on this one. So he's a decent modeler, decent with After Effects. Okay with animation, I guess. This render, the pictures could be better, I guess, but okay, I want you to tell me what is wrong with this demo reel, if you guys were paying attention. Let me get out of here so I can see the chat. What was done with that demo reel? Do I need to show it again? Let's see if you guys catch it. Okay, so pay attention again. What is wrong with this demo reel? And if you haven't caught it again, it's coming here again. Okay, what was wrong with that demo reel? Is it a lack of basic meshes and wireframes? No, that's not it. Anybody else caught it? Is the rest of you guys sleeping? I hope not. But it's not even that he used like this little animation. It's obviously somebody else's, right? It's from Street Fighter. So he just downloaded the GIF. I told him you could trace this and change the character a bit, make it yourself or something else. He didn't take the time, but the biggest mistake is right here. What did you not see on the demo? Did you see any illustration? I didn't see any illustration, and he's looking for... Oh, you can't see the screen? Have I not been sharing the screen? Oh. So, okay, so he is looking for a work for illustration, or he wants to be an illustrator, but I didn't see any illustration on his demo. I mean, other than this, that is actually downloaded from somewhere. You know, there was not any illustration. So when you go looking for work and you say, I want to be an illustrator, and there's no illustration on your demo, you know, people say, oh, I want you to do graphics instead. You know, it seems like you're good at it. Or modeling, because you're good at it. You know, he's obviously pretty good at all those things. But I didn't see any illustration, so I can't judge how good he is at it. So your demo must aim in the direction you want to go in life. If you come out with a demo that's full of aimless things, I'm sorry, but you wasted your time in school. You know, you have to really focus on what you want out of life. You know, so because if you don't focus, somebody else is going to decide for you. Somebody else, that's what happened to me, and now that burned me for a long time. So I'm trying to tell you to not make that mistake, you know. They could put this guy doing 3D modeling or graphics, motion graphics instead. But inside of him, he would be wanting to do illustration. So if your demo, obviously this class is a 3D class, so the main part of your demo is going to include 3D modeling, obviously. But let's see. There's another demo here. Where is it? So Suzanne, this lady, she is an actual illustrator, and she was taking the class just because she needed it. But let's look at her demo. How she took her strengths, even though the rest of the stuff is not that great. Let's. So she started with her illustrations. She even showed, and I think it's kind of cool. I don't know if you guys can see this because the resolution is pretty crappy. But even her intro card has a drawing, already. She's an illustrator. She's an artist. She has, she's showing us her sketchbook, which is kind of interesting to look at, and the pre-production drawing for her Lego figure. And also here he showed us the textures she painted herself. Maybe, well, you're looking for work. Maybe I don't have work for an illustrator, but I have job at somebody that can paint textures. That's a good painter and can create textures for my games, or my animations. So she's playing to her strengths. So she's playing to what she likes doing also. So that's what she put first. And there's her finished scene, There's not different angles or anything. I guess there is another angle. But there's no animation. But she did play to her strengths. And the other stuff is actually not very good, but I think that the first part was great. How she aimed her demo at what she wants to do. Okay, Austin did. So I'm gonna show you a few more demo reels. See how far you want to take it. So again, lots of After Effects. So this may be a little long. It might be interesting as a story, but for an employer, it might be a little long. The Matrix. Yeah, that's what I think he was going for. So there's his intro card, and he has a lot of transitions here. So here his Lego scenes. He has a lot of modeling and a lot of stuff is going on, but it is a little fast. So you don't get time for people to see all the work he put on it. You don't get to see everything he did. So you have to be careful with timing. And so there's the solar system. And he created all those transitions. And then he made a pretty elaborate bouncing ball, and then he added some camera movement. And there it is. So you always want to start with your intro card, your name and your title, and then finish in the same fashion so people remembers what your name was. Oh, who did this? And if you have your, let's see, where's the intro card? If you start with it and end with it, that will remind people. At least they get to see your name twice, you know. Or when the demo ends, you know, they are seeing your name at the end, so they know who you are. Let's see, Austin Davis. I think we've seen this. Yeah, we've seen this. Okay, we've seen this 3. Oh, this guy, he was a designer, so he was just taking the class to complete the degrees, but he played to his strength, which is designing. So you see his titles are really clean, really well registered and organized, and his intro card looks like a business card almost, you know. He has this, that could be a little longer too, I guess. That could last a little longer than the screen. But he made this drawing on Illustrator, and I can't see it with this. He made this drawing in Illustrator. Like this looks like something a designer would do, or like a business card, you know. It's very clean, very well designed. So he's playing to his strengths. So you'll see, as far as 3D, he didn't put any animation much on it. He just find nice angles of his scene. He said, I feel like a movie director because I can find the perfect angles, and it's so much fun, you know. So he you know, played to his strengths, to his design strengths. This assignment we didn't do. There's his bell bounce. It's fairly simple. Okay, let's see a couple more. Leon Clifford. So this kid was not very good at animation at all, but he really enjoyed modeling. So I think the best part of his demo is that he played to his modeling. So he made this computer being built by Legos, and you know, just rendered the camera movement through it. Oh. Now Google Drive doesn't want to play. I don't know what the deal is. It's probably my internet. Let me go back here. So even his intro card, so see, this stuff is not, it's not great. He animated after, he did the UVs after animating. That's why you see his texture moving. But yeah, see that there's not much to it. And one last thing I want you to see. No, that's not it. This kid. So it was just a regular kid. He had this scene. His demo was not extraordinary. He had a fairly nice model, and he only had like one render of it. And I told him, if you put only a little bit of camera movement on it, it will make a huge difference. Just having the camera move a tiny bit, you know, it will make a huge difference. And he tried it, and I think the render crashed, and he had to work or something like that, so he couldn't keep rendering. So it's really short, but just seeing the camera move through his scene makes a huge difference, that rather than just having a static picture, because that's all he had, you know. Let me see if I can rewind here. There it is. So he only had this picture, and you know, that's pretty static, but just by having a little bit of movement, you know, I wish you would have had more time to render like the camera moving a little more, you know, but sometimes it can only move so much around your scene. So I want to talk to you about your demo. So just remember these things. You start with your best, stick to your strengths and interests, and keep it short. Don't make it too long. So quality of rendering, you guys have been dealing a lot with the bouncing ball. Now when you render it, you see if it's too big, you might have to make your camera smaller, render your if each frame when you render it takes like a million years to render one frame. What had you do is just make your movie smaller, and this is 960 by 540. It took 4 seconds, which is not too bad. If you think that way always, you're never going to have any images that look too good because they're too small, so at some point you're going to have to render at good resolution. So if you go to your render settings, your quality, at least nowadays, all videos, at least on YouTube, most of them are 1920 by 1080, which is HD 1080. So 1920 by 1080. So your demo should have at least images that are this big. If you can go higher, well, you can. I just don't recommend it. I say at least this, or at the very least, if you have a really old crappy computer, 720p. So 1280 width by 720 height. So just because screens nowadays, even phones have really good screens. So when you show your stuff, you want people to see something that looks decent, not all pixely. The other thing is, you saw some of those students, how did they render just wireframe from their image? And it doesn't work. Like if you have your wireframe here, it doesn't render. But how do I render a wireframe for my old image? So we're going to just assign a material, and if you look for Arnold or AI, I should write, I guess, AI, or let me just click in here. If you look on the list here of Arnold materials, at the very bottom there's AI wireframe. So I didn't have anything selected, so you can just select whatever you want to put wireframe on your scene, right click and assign that material. There it is, AI wireframe. So now when you render, you'll render a wireframe instead of a textured image. And I guess my wireframe is super thick on the boots and on the sweater, so it doesn't render very well. So that's one way to do it. You can control the thickness of the lines. So if I go to material attributes, wireframe, here it is. So here's the line width. So I had a lot of lines here on the sweater, so it looked black. So I can make those lines thinner. I can also change the color to something different. I don't know, green, whatever you want. And the color of the object is white usually, so you can change that too. So then when you render, it looks a little bit different. Oh, and my lines are too thin now. So you have to play with the settings. Now the other thing is, some of you have asked me, how do I render a turntable? And there's two ways to approach it. Let me just save this as a turntable. Save scene as turntable. So there's two ways to approach it. The simplest one would be you select your model. I don't think the centers. So you have to make sure the pivot of the object is on the right spot. So right now it's on one foot, I guess, 1 foot. Let's see. So the body's on the center, the boots on the side, the body's on the center. So the boots are on one side. So I'm going to go to modify and say reset transformations. That will put the pivot point at the 0 on the grid. So, whoops. I guess I gotta freeze transformations first. Let's see. Freeze transformations. Now, modify reset transformations. What the heck? Why is it doing it back here? Well, it doesn't matter. I can move it by hand. So I'm just gonna hit D. That's my pivot point. I'm gonna put it here on the center. Actually, if you hold X, it'll snap to the center there. There we go. Now I guess I can group, and I'm gonna hit D to get out of that, and I can just group everything or combine it. Let's combine it. And the simplest way to do a turntable is to, with your channel box, you know how to animate on the channel box now, so this should be a piece of cake for you. You can come to the rotate Y. Let me change my workspace to animation. Where is animation? Right there, animation. Let me go back to the channel box. So on the rotate Y, you put a key on frame 1. Are we in frame 1? No, there we go. You put a key on frame 1, key selected. Then however long you want it to take to spin, like say 2 seconds, 3 seconds, however long, you just count those frames. So 2 seconds would be 48 frames. Let me just zoom out here. So if I want it to spin on 2 seconds, I'll select 48, then on rotate Y type 360 in here. Oh, that's translate, dang it. I keyed the wrong thing altogether. So let me break this animation here. Surprised nobody called me out on it. You're keying the wrong thing, man. Usually students will say something. So it's the rotate Y. So at frame 1 it's gonna be 0 rotation. So I'm gonna right click here, say key selected. Then I wanted to take 2 seconds to do a full turn. So I know 1 second is 24 frames. So 48 is 2 seconds. There's 48. I'm gonna come back here and type 360 and key it. So now I have my animation, you know, that is as simple as that. I have my, and it's keeping all kinds of frames here, but I have my animation rotating. So when I render it, it's going to be rotating. But how do you keep it rotating forever? For that, you can use your graph editor. Let's see, animation, graph editor. So you want linear animation for this. You don't want it tangents because they'll slow in and slow out into your rotation. You can select the last and first frame and say linear animation. Now if you want it to cycle, to keep rotating forever, you can just select the last keyframe, and on the graph editor there's this menu that says curves. Post infinity, which means what's it gonna happen after this animation is done. You can just say cycle. So now it doesn't matter how long you render, you know, it's gonna keep rotating even after that keyframe over here on 48. You know, it'll keep rotating forever. It's just gonna keep cycling the animation. So that's to rotate the animation. You can cameras have a little bit more of an advantage, you know, because right now I'm rendering from the perspective. Let me just delete this sphere here. What if I wanted to instead render a camera? So let me take the animation off this. Let me just break the animation. Let me go back to frame 0. So if I'm at the 0 rotation and I break it here, it's gonna remember the 0 instead of the random number I had in there. So break connections. So now I'm back to normal. You can do it this other way, and this is the way we used to do it at the studio every time we made a model. we would have an actual camera rotating around the object. And we'd also have the sun going up and down, so you can see the different lighting. So if you go to curves and surfaces, you can create a circle. It's pretty small, so let me make it bigger. And then let me move it up. So say I want to put a camera on this circle. The problem is if you put it on now, you see how the circle looks it has like sharp angles on it. That is how many divisions the circle has. So if you put a camera on the circle now, it's gonna move, and then it's gonna go through that corner, and the camera is gonna move weird. It's not gonna be a smooth circle. It's gonna do some weird animation. So what you want to do is add more sections to the circle so it looks smoother. So if we open it here, it says it has 8 sections. We want a lot more than that. Let's say 32 sections. And now you can see the circle is a little bit smoother, so the camera doesn't do a weird turn every time it gets to a corner of a section. Then you just create your camera. So I'm going to the create menu, camera, and I'm just going to put camera in here. And I'm actually going to move it here. And if you hold C, it should snap to the circle here. If it'll let me. I guess it's not letting me. Let me just find a different view. It's kind of small too, so it's hard to see there. Okay, so do C for curve when I move it. And you can just select both. And if you're in animation constraint, you can say motion path and attach to motion path. That's all there is to attach it. So understand the curves is the path, and that the circle is, that the camera is what you want to move. So you do that, the camera is going to be set to the circle. Now you have all the properties of a camera, focal length, f-stop, focus distance, shutter angle, all those things that you have in a camera and that you would actually want to play with if you're a photography or film major and know about this stuff. If not, the other way to do it is simpler, just rotating the model. But this, if now I select the camera and I say panels, look through selected, I'll be looking through that camera. And let's see, where's my zoom here? I can zoom out or in, all those things that you could do in a camera. And then when I hit play, the camera will rotate around the circle, Same thing, it's just you have the advantages of the camera settings. So the lens, it has a totally different feel to it. And then what a lot of let me go back to the perspective view. A lot of when I had to, and you can see it actually here moving on the path, it's just following around. So a lot of the things that some studios would have me do is animate the light. So like you would see the morning light and sometimes nighttime and then go into sunset. You can do that, or you can fake it, without making much work. You can do to add an Arnold physical sky if you want to do this. This is kind of taking it a little bit farther. And this render of the light will have on the attributes of it. So the attributes are the third icon on the top right. And if you go to physical sky, in here you have the elevation. So elevation is how high is the sun in the sky. So You can have it be like nighttime and key it, you know. Set key at 0, and then however long you want it to take, have the elevation be 90 degrees, which should be noonday. You know, key it again, and then, you know, well, let's say 62, it goes back down to 0 again. So now you would see the sun, like when I'm over here close to the end, you would see the sun, kind of like on a sunset. Oh, but I have the wireframe. Yeah, never mind. With the wireframe, you can't see any lighting on it. This only works with textures. But you could see the animation of the sun going reddish, you know, to fully bright on the noon position, which is 90 degrees on top, and then going back down to 0. So that way you can animate the sun. Now moving on to After Effects. Another problem that I see is like people cutting stuff too abruptly. So what do I mean by that? There was a demo reel here that I liked. Where did it go? Oh, I can't. I guess there was a recording here, so let me see if I can find it. Where is it? Just give me 1 second, I'll find it here. Okay, here it is. So this is one of those media recordings, so I can't really get it out of Canvas. So it's pretty interesting music, pretty interesting title. This is kind of strange, but so this kid had really good. He really enjoyed modeling, and you can tell, you know, by just how far he took his model. You can tell he enjoyed modeling. So his transitions are fairly good here. So, but see the ending, you know, like it's kind of what happened? Did it break? You know, so the transition at the end is kind of abrupt. So you want to pay attention to transitions, you know, and how long you're showing an image. If it's less than 3 seconds, like some of those kids you saw, their demo shows the Lego render, and it shows them for less than 10 seconds, almost 1 second sometimes. People doesn't have time to see what's going on, you know. Also, people doesn't know that you modeled that, so they think you took a picture of some a Lego, some toys, you know. So when you show the wireframe in your process, that kind of gives people a reference, like, oh, you actually did make that. It wasn't just a picture of your little brother's toys, you know. So you want to think about those things. You want to think about transitions and how long you're showing in each image. Does people have enough time to read them? Does people understand what I made out of it? You know, if you didn't make everything, you need to put some credits at the end. Like that one kid that had the animation of the Street Fighter at the bottom. He probably should have put some credits on it at the end of the demo, or for the music if it's not yours, you know. You always want to give credit where credit's due, so you don't, you know, you're not ripping off somebody and they're not mad at you and see your stuff and say, oh, that's mine. Or I know who did that, I know who animated that, you know. that'd be embarrassing, you know, especially when you're showing to somebody that you want to get a job with. So you're obviously going to start with your intro card that you did at the beginning of the semester. So whatever that may be, if you need to adjust it, you know, if you want to put your contact info on it, because you're planning on building app on it, go ahead. If you're planning to I don't know, to add other stuff, change your title, you know, from 3D to Illustrator or motion graphics, whatever you want to be in life, you know, that's completely up to you. It's not something I dictate. Just get in the habit of working on your, as you go through school, get on the habit of working on your demo reel. So you're not later in life saying, oh, why didn't, especially when you graduate school and you're like, okay, I'm done with school, now what do I do? You don't want to find yourself at the point that you finish school and you say, oh no, now I have to redo my demo because I don't have anything on it. So get on the habit of working on that. You know, let's say this is the intro card to your demo. So my demo, your name, I'm an 3D animator or modeler, or that's what I want to be. So you gotta start believing it now, believing in yourself, and just putting it in there, putting it out there for the world to see. I'm an animator. It says it right there, it makes it official. Then when you bring your stuff into After Effects, like your bouncing ball. Okay, let's just put this on. Let's say this is my bouncing ball. I'm gonna put it in my timeline here somewhere. So your cuts are not so abrupt, and this bouncing ball is a little bit smaller than 1920 by 1080. So I'm just going to hit scale, or S for scale, and I know it's the same proportions, 1920 by 1080 and 1720 by 1260, I think it is. It's the same proportion, so I can just scale it bigger and it should fit. So you don't want your stuff to show up like this, like blip, or I guess depends on what you're going for, if you want to surprise somebody. But usually those cuts are kind of abrupt with sound and with images, so you usually want to fade in and fade out, at the very least, whatever you have. So you can open the transparency here for this animation and just fade it in. It's fairly easy. You say, I want a keyframe at the beginning, and you can hold shift and move your keyframe and it'll snap to the beginning there. So there. And then a few seconds in, you know, be another keyframe. So I'm gonna click here for a new keyframe, and the beginning one is going to be 0%, zero transparency. I mean zero opacity. So if you click on these arrows, you can move through keyframes on After Effects. So that's the first one. I'm just gonna make it below, and then now the animation fades in, and that gives you a little bit of you know, it's not so harsh on your eyes. You can grab the same keyframes, you know, and let me zoom in with the plus sign here and kind of come to the end of the clip and paste it. Control V. Oops, I guess I didn't copy them, so I'm gonna marquee over them, Control C, come to the end and hit Control V, and there's the end, and I just have to reverse them. It's the same thing but reverse. So if you have both of them selected and right click on them, you can say keyframe assistant, time reverse keyframes. So now it's the same thing, it's just the opposite. It fades out instead of fading in. You can make some adjustments in time to your animation, you know, if you want to slow down things, speed up things, if you right click on your layer and you say time, enable time remapping, and I think I've shown you this before, I can't remember, but I think I have shown it to you. What time remapping does is it creates two keyframes, one at the beginning and one at the end. So what it's saying is like this animation lasts this long. Now if I move the last keyframe, I can make it last even longer. And let me just delete this transparency thing so you can see. So my clip only lasts till frame 13 or something like that. But now because I moved the last keyframe, oh, and I have to stretch my layer also. Because I moved the last keyframe, it's making it really slow. Okay. If I do the opposite, you know, my animation will be faster too. So you can see it's trying to speed up in here. So now it lasts a lot less time. At the same time, you can make parts of your animation be faster or slower. So let's say I wanted this top part to be slower. So I would say, okay, where does it start? So let's say I want it to be slower from here, kind of like on the Matrix, you know, or when they're punching somebody and they slow down the camera or they speed it up. It's the same effect, you know. Actors sometimes fight really slow and then they speed it up on post-production. This is how you would do it with time remapping. So let's say this, I want to slow this part of the clip. So I'm gonna put a keyframe here at the beginning of the part that I want to slow down, and another here at the end where I want to slow down. So I know it takes this long. Now I can give this space more time. So I'm going to grab these two keyframes, move them out here, and enlarge my clip. So now if I play it, you'll see that part slows down quite a bit. So see, so you can adjust the timing. So let me show it to you again. So it's moving normal, then slows down and speeds up. So that's what time remapping does. The other thing you saw on like the best demo reel I showed you, he had a lot of overlays. Like you would see the model spinning, and then you would see the same on the same model. It would there'd be like a swipe, and it would transform into a wireframe model. So all you have to do is animate a camera in After Effects before you render. So let me just delete this in here. Let me get rid of this circle too. And you can add a camera. You know how to animate now. Just by animating the bouncing ball, you know how to animate. So you can create a camera. And shoot this over here. And I left this other camera. Let me just delete this other one. So it's fairly easy to animate. You can make a path just like you did the circle and have the camera follow the path. You can just you know, put a keyframe at frame 1 on the camera. It has the same channels as anything else. So here's my position and rotation. And then I can, and actually, let me undo that. Let me just look through this camera first. So I'm gonna look through that camera. So I'm gonna go panels, look through selected. Now I'm looking through that camera, and I'm going to try to find my model. And it's just like navigating on perspective. So I'm going to key my position and rotation at here. I'm going to go, let's say frame 60, and I'm gonna put my camera over here and key it again. So now I have an animation, you know, with my camera. I didn't have to do much work. All I did was set 2 keyframes. You know, you can get more elaborate, obviously. But it's fairly simple now. You have the same controls, like if you want it to slow in and slow out, or if it's moving too close, you know, you can still change the same way that you change everything on the graph editor. You can change for the camera. So you could render one model with texture, you know, with the regular colors, then another model with the wireframe. Where's the material I created? So I just said assign new material, and under the Arnold is wireframe. So then you in After Effects you overlay them, you know, and then when you want to see one, you make one fade out and the other one fade in, and it's just that easy. You know, you could have a render with your background normal and just your character and wireframe, and if you overlay them and fade one in and fade the other one out, you know, it'll give you the same effect that demo reel. But anyway, that's all I want to show you. It was quite a bit, but I hope it can help you in making your demo. Any questions, you guys? Let me get out of the... Any questions? Alex had to leave. Great. If there is no questions, or if you want to know how that kid made that older animation with the football player, and you can ask me. If not, you're free to go, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Okay, I don't know what I'm gonna talk about tomorrow, but I'll see you guys tomorrow.